Great, thanks very much, Matt. I will follow up with a quick intro. As you said, my name is Benjamin Twitchell. I'm here sitting in our Paris office. I just flew in yesterday morning from our New York office, so I apologize if I sound a bit jet lagged to anyone. Here at Mention, our company is a media monitoring solution. For this reason, I wanted to talk specifically around media monitoring, definitely not in any sort of salesy way, as I mentioned, but just some of the really unique ways that we see people using our tools, and in fact some of our competitors' tools, to do interesting things with the information online provided with media monitoring. Now, some people may be familiar with media monitoring, some people may be less familiar with media monitoring, so I wanted to give, before I started, just a little quick intro on what that means. It can mean anything from digital to print or traditional media. I'm going to talk about specifically digital media monitoring, which means anything on the web, including social media, and then other channels, from anything from blogs to news websites. So really what I want to present here is just 2 or 3 quick ideas that we've seen people generate lots of revenue with thanks to monitoring online activity. Now I'm just going to quickly jump into the agenda here. As I said, a couple really quick ideas that we've seen people see a lot of success with. The secret sauce for some of our companies and some of our competitors' companies. I've seen them write about it. Now, these are going to be hacks for, one, stealing the competition leads and generating your leads through the competition, as well as just some information on finding influencers. I wanted to talk about this because we get asked all the time, how do I determine systematically and quickly what influencers are for your own brand, for your competitors, and for really any topic. So I just wanted to provide this information for the Digital Olympus viewers. So quickly to start, the best way here of generating leads from the competition, we find, is to monitor for discontent with your competitors. Now, this specific example here is, I think, a great example. I really tried hard to find lots of examples for you guys, but unfortunately, people didn't want to give up too much of their lead generation tactics. So this one, Close.io, was very happy to provide. What they did here, and this is something I really recommend to every business, SaaS company or not, is to monitor your competitors. Not just yourself. A lot of companies like to monitor themselves to track what's going on around them, what sort of conversations are happening, and that's great, and everyone should do that. But take it to the next level, monitor your competitors, and then when you monitor your competitors, you can do this not only to see the basics, like what's being said about them, what people think about them, but you can actually not only monitor the competitor, but you can monitor either with sentiment analysis or with key terms that show discontent that see, are there unhappy customers? And you can see here, Mr. Hoffman was using Close.io's competitor, Retail IQ, and they were unhappy with the service. They expanded to Ireland, and they were prevented from using the service anymore. So Close.io, thanks to media monitoring, could reach out directly, let them know that they use the product in Ireland, it's provided in Ireland, and that this person, in fact, from one tweet in media monitoring, instantly generated MRR of $585. And that is really a great benefit for anyone. And not only is it great to have that revenue, but you're taking it directly from the competitor, which is a little dicey, but it's something that definitely you always want to be beating out your competitors, and this is honestly a great way to do it. Now, when I asked the CEO about this experience, he said, and I quote, "It's not uncommon to spend thousands of dollars to acquire a new customer, so on a single tweet, getting an ROI of $585 is massive." And I completely agree with him there. So by listening to Twitter conversations, they found that they can really very quickly find people who have buying intent right off the bat. And I'm going to quote him again here, and it says, when he says, "Thanks to media monitoring, I now know the most important skills for sales professionals and marketers alike is not only talking and managing objections and negotiating, but it's in fact listening." We have another example here from One World Direct, one of our customers. They do the exact same thing, but except when the provider is being complained about directly. This is something that's different from this example because they were just talking about how the service was no longer available. You can do it also when the service is poor. This is something that's especially useful when you have an expensive service. It's definitely valuable to do this when you sell a less expensive product as well, but when you have a very expensive product, each one of these customers that you pull in can bring you quite a bit of ROI. So I want to talk about on a tangible level how exactly you do this. For mention, we can do it on our own data by going into our alert panel here, and then you can very easily filter alerts by positive, neutral, negative. I'm showing you the mention dashboard here as, obviously I'm a mention user, but a lot of our competition has this feature as well. So if you're already with one of them, I'd obviously advocate mention. If you're with one of them, you can easily do this as well. Next up, I want to talk about the fact that you can also make sure to use this with over time. This is a graph here on the right that shows sentiment analysis over time. So this is something that you can do to monitor if there are specific days of the week or times of the year when there's a dissatisfaction with your competitors or just the topic in general, and you can make sure to hone in on that and really focus on reaching out at the right time and focusing your lead generation efforts around the sentiment. So that's what I really wanted to say about stealing competitors and leads. But I next up wanted to talk about influencers. You can see here a panel of what we consider to be our influencers. And you can generate influencers in a number of ways. The easiest way is to find your own influencers is to just quickly set up an alert with your own name and phrases that describe yourself. And then you can see both web influencers and Twitter influencers. But something that we get asked all the time is, how do I see my competitors' influencers? It's super easy to determine, at least on a peripheral level, if not on an in-depth level, your own influencers. You probably interact with them. They might be your customers. But in fact, it's just as easy to find your own. You need to do on any media monitoring tool the same way that you would monitor yourself. You simply set up an alert for whatever your competitor would be, and then this type of information will get pulled in automatically. Now, one thing that I think is really important to note here that everyone should do as well is, besides just monitoring for influencers for yourself and for your competitors, you should monitor on topics that pertain to your business. For this reason, you will have this automatically generated influencer report, both for yourself and your competitors, but also really anyone discussing topics which are relevant to your brand. This is important because these people are great not only target customers, but people to reach out to for any of your marketing efforts and to get feedback on new products. So as I said, these were a couple of high-level strategies for everyone. I'd love to get people's thoughts, and I'd love to answer some questions on these two different tactics that I just quickly presented.
Wow, Ben, thank you ever so much. What a great short and sweet thing. I've mentioned before in my time, it is a great tool, guys. So if you've got questions for Ben, please be sure to add them into the chat box, and we'll spend a few minutes answering them. I've got a couple of questions for you, though, Ben.
Yeah.
So if you don't mind, I'd love to ask them. So how do you make sure you don't get irrelevant mentions? Because I'm imagining, well, social media, as we all know, is a very busy place. So how do you make sure they're relevant?
Yeah, this is especially a common problem for lots of people who have sometimes common names. What you can do is most any monitoring tool will allow you to filter out by specific keywords. This means that if you see lots of consistencies in your relevant mentions, for example, you have there's another business, a competitor or not, who has a similar name, or there's a topic that's being discussed, and you see that typically in this topic, there's a word that's coming up all the time, you can make sure to exclude these mentions in your report. Now, something else that's important to mention here is that most media monitoring software, including Mention, provides the opportunity to use Boolean search. For people who don't know what Boolean search is, it's an advanced form of using and or if clauses, and then even further along from there, you can use clauses like nearby, things like this, to get really advanced on what you want to include and exclude. And it's just important to take a deep dive into what content you're getting in through your media monitoring efforts, see what you want to exclude, find the patterns there, and then make sure it's excluded properly in either your standard alert or a Boolean setup if you're an advanced user.
Very interesting. And what happens when you've used a tool like Mention to find and initially reach out to an influencer? How do you then engage them? How can you get the most out of that? Because obviously you're trying to reach out to them with a purpose in mind. So what happens next?
Yeah, so I guess it really depends on the influencer. One of my favorite techniques is to follow up on what they're saying. You know, a lot of influencers are influencers because they're experts in certain subjects and they're giving advice. And the best way to do that is even before you reach out to them, follow up on their advice, see if it's good advice, you know, put it to use. And if you find that it's good advice, you can reach out to them either through social media or email, whatever your preferred communication channel is, and you then take your feedback from their advice and give it to them. If it's great news, give them the great news, but don't just say, hey, great tactic. You can say tangibly, oh, with your technique, I generated this many leads or this much revenue, or we built a lot of brand awareness, and send them the results. People love to see feedback on their information that they're providing. Now, this doesn't work only if their advice is good. I would very much strongly encourage people to do the same thing, even if they find the advice is bad. Now, you want to be constructive here. You don't want to just say, hey, you gave great advice or terrible advice. You want to say, hey, I tried putting this to use. I didn't get great results. These are my results. Do you think it's because this doesn't work well for everyone? Do you think I didn't apply it properly? How would you put this into action? So this is a great way to give the influencer a really tangible connection line because you're responding to what they're saying. And then once you've opened the door, you can make your ask, whatever your ask would be.
Fantastic, I love it. Well, we've got a few more minutes left with Ben, guys, so please get your questions in the chat box. Ben, I'm sure is excited to answer them. I am excited to hear those questions. So we've got one come in from Diego. So what social media channels do you consider to be the most useful for most companies? I suppose relating especially to a monitoring tool like Mention.
So I'll give a general answer here, but if Diego could follow up with a little more specific information around what type of business, is it B2B, is it B2C, what the vertical is, I can give much more tangible advice because different social channels are better for different things. Now, even without that, I can jump right off the bat and say Twitter is a great platform to monitor for mainly the reason that it's very easy to monitor. The data is available. It's very digestible by technology. And then also there's a lot of chatter on Twitter, and there's a lot of business people on Twitter as well as consumers alike. So you get a really widespread interest type. So no matter what type of business you have, there's generally some value from Twitter. And the value can be anything from connecting with your audience, but also there's a lot of customer support and feedback options on Twitter. We get a lot of consumers who complain about a product on Twitter, either directly to the person being the organization, the support group, or just in general. They say, hey, I use this, I'm having a bad experience with it. If you monitor Twitter, you can make sure to catch those negative experiences and turn them into positive ones, and turn possibly your churning customers into evangelists and promoters, and if not that lofty, at least happy customers. And on the other end, there's Twitter, but then you want to make sure to hone in on what are the channels, social media channels, that are really the powerful growth channels or revenue channels for you, and then you want to monitor those channels specifically to make sure you're getting a full picture of what's going on. A good example of that is a company that I know, 1 Second Every Day. It's a great mobile application for the consumer. It's a fun tool. They see a lot of ROI on Instagram. This makes sense because they are a video tool. They create videos. Now, they were monitoring what was going on, and they saw that they had a ton of activity. I don't remember exactly the countries, but I think it was South Korea and Ireland, 2 very random countries for them that they did not expect. And because of that, they put together specific marketing strategies for these 2 countries. And one being Korea, it was really important to have some language translation as well. And then due to these really pivots in marketing strategy, thanks to monitoring the channels that they knew were their growth channels, they were able to further grow their product in a way they had not expected.
Amazing. Well, I don't know if you've seen Diego's comment. He's an outdoor products business, specifically outdoor luxury cabinets. So are you able to sort of go on from anything?
So outdoor luxury cabinets is definitely not my vertical, but I could still give some advice on this based on just the type of product. Anything that's outdoor and anything that's a physical product, you'll want to make sure to monitor visual mediums. I just talked about Instagram. Pinterest is another option here, where if you are selling a product, especially a beautiful product, as I'm sure you are, Diego, it's important to make sure to capture all of the media that people are creating really for you. This is great because if you are monitoring Pinterest or Instagram for your keywords, the name of your company, this will allow you to see the photos that users are creating. This is a couple things. 1, it allows you to connect with users and possible influencers who are taking photos and posting photos of your products. And then 2, depending on what tool you are using, you can actually pull in that data and present it with permission on your website. It's a great way to present fresh user-generated content, and actually, if you integrate it, you can make that shoppable. A good example of this is 7 Friday Watches. If you go to 7friday.com, you might want to Google that just to make sure I have the domain right on the top of my head, and scroll down a little bit. They have a whole stream of beautiful photos of their customers posting watches on Instagram. And this is a great tactic for any physical product, not just watches. It would work great for outdoor cabinets as well, because people are proud of their purchases. They're going to post them online, and oftentimes, a company might not have the means to be making beautiful photos, and even if they are, they want a different touch. And so this is a way for them to get more fresh content on their homepage, and then if people like this. This image, they can directly go and buy it. So it generates sales as well.
Great, I love it. It just goes to show that you can use a monitoring tool like this, not just to kind of track your competitors and to see that side of things, but also to just really get good engagement with your audience, which is what it's all about in the end of the day, right?
Yeah, absolutely.